I'm getting a little time just to adjust to everything. Obviously, I'm gonna need some times, but I'm happy to represent the Lakers.
I think that he is still in a state of shock that this happened. And I don't think it's about wanting or not wanting to be a Laker.
Luka Doncic is a Los Angeles Laker, and it's absolutely ridiculous that I can even say that. Maverick fans were angry at this trade even happening, but just a few games into his Los Angeles Lakers tenure, and it may look like Nico Harrison may have made the right decision. Okay, probably not, but still, Luka Doncic's brief tenure with the Los Angeles Lakers so far has been an unmitigated disaster. Now, the point of this video isn't to say that Luka sucks and he's terrible and he's never going to be good again. Rather, it's to explain why Luka Doncic has been struggling with the Los Angeles Lakers lately. What could you expect for the remainder of the season? Why is this happening to Luka? And could this current iteration of the Los Angeles Lakers win a championship? Before we get to the content, we're giving away 10 copies of MLB The Show 25 to a subscriber that turns on their notifications for our brand new baseball channel, Uni Diamond Talk. I'm going to leave a link to that new channel in the description down below. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been on an amazing streak on Prize Picks, making $400 off of our last 3 picks, which proves that my data analysis model works. Sign up for Prize Picks using my promo code microphone to get $50 when you make a play of $5, and follow my Instagram at TheFlightMike to see my plays. I also give away additional plays on patreon.com/microphone, and thank you Prize Picks for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Everyone expected Luka to team up with LeBron James and form an unstoppable duo, and even though it looked that way in their first game together, it has looked like the complete opposite ever since. In the 3 games he's played in a Laker uniform, Luka Doncic has averaged 14.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game on 35.6% shooting from the field and 20.8% shooting from 3. He's even shooting less than 60% from the line. Not only that, but the Los Angeles Lakers have lost their last 2 games with Luka, and if this was coming against teams like the Boston Celtics or the OKC Thunder, then I'd give it a pass. But we're talking about 2 of the worst teams in all of basketball. Teams that are legitimately tanking for an opportunity to draft Cooper Flag in the 2025 NBA draft, which, by the way, it seems very likely that the Spurs are going to get Cooper Flag now. It's a bittersweet way to get him. I made a completely separate video on it. It's our last video on the channel, and I'll leave a link to it on the end screen. But the Lakers lost to the Utah Jazz and the Charlotte Hornets, and immediately fans are going to be thinking that it's because of Luka Doncic's defense. And while that might be the case, typically Luka at least makes up for it with his offense. But his offensive game has been completely lackluster. And with the lack of talent around him and LeBron, it's costing the Lakers big time. If you guys remember from the very moment that this trade happened, when I was delirious and emotional and trying to think of the very first thoughts that came to my head, trying to come to terms with the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers traded Anthony Davis and Max Christie and a 2029 first round pick to get Luka Doncic and Markieff Morris, I was able to at least scramble to the back of my brain and say that this trade hurts the Los Angeles Lakers in the short term. The trade was never about trying to put a championship contender around LeBron James for one last run. This was about life after LeBron James. But that doesn't mean that the Los Angeles Lakers still didn't try to make it work for Luka Doncic. If you guys remember, the Los Angeles Lakers also tried to swing a huge trade for Mark Williams, which has since been extremely controversial. Mark Williams failed his physical, so the Lakers rescinded the trade, but apparently according to the Hornets, Mark Williams was fully healthy. It's a whole mess, but to summarize it, at the end of the day, Dalton Knecht and the 2 first-round picks that the Lakers gave up for Mark Williams, one of which being a pick swap, stay with the Lakers, and Mark Williams returns to the Charlotte Hornets and gets dunked on by LeBron James just a few games later. And although it's a very legitimate reason not to want a center like Mark Williams due to his injury history, history, this causes a huge problem for the Los Angeles Lakers. They have one of the thinnest front courts in the entire NBA, not only defensively, but offensively as well. And the fact that Luka Doncic doesn't have a legitimate lob threat really handicaps him in doing what he does best. And as a result, I don't think JJ Redick is putting Luka Doncic in the right position to be, well, Luka Doncic. We knew immediately once this trade went down that LeBron James and Luka Doncic were going to have to share the rock and facilitate at different times, but it isn't really working. In the times where LeBron is the one facilitating the offense, which by the way is often, this is how Luka Doncic is standing in the half court. Obviously, he's going to have to play off the ball, but why is he not doing anything? Even on this play, LeBron James is running a high pick and roll with Rui Hachimura in the clutch, and it takes a missed three and a terrible box out for Luka to even sniff the ball. But then again, things aren't going too well when the ball is in Luka's hands as well, and teams have even started guarding him like he's Ben Simmons. So why wouldn't you play him off the ball when a player like LeBron James is on the court?
He was not good in this game. Doesn't look like he has his legs at all. He's 1 of 9 on threes in the game. He's 5 of 24 on threes since he's been a Laker.
Look, every player is going to have to adjust to a new team, but I think that applies to Luka more than anybody. The Lakers and Luka's Mavericks ran a very similar offense. Both teams had a generational facilitator at the top, running a spread pick and roll with one of their big men, whether it was Anthony Davis in LeBron's case, or Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford in Luka Doncic's case. The problem is, Luka doesn't have a big man of that caliber to be able to do stuff like that anymore. LeBron is able to adjust and play his way because the Lakers are his team, and everyone is used to that by now. Luka has to adjust and figure out how to utilize an offense that wasn't built completely around him. He eventually could take over and run the Lakers offense the same way he did in Dallas, with LeBron playing the same role that Kyrie Irving did, but it would take a lot of reconstruction and chemistry building because they just don't have it right now. Let me take you through some plays so you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about. Here you can see a perfect example of how a successful pick and roll looks in a Luka Doncic ran offense in Dallas. Derek Lively comes up very high to set an early screen on a smaller Chris Paul, forcing Trace Jackson Davis to step up and allowing an athletic Derek Lively to slip right behind him for an easy lob. Plays like this are what made Dallas's offense so lethal last year and helped propel them to the NBA Finals. And the Lakers just haven't figured out how to implement this with Luka just yet. The closest thing we got was this play against the Charlotte Hornets that ultimately ended up in a foul on the Hornets before Jackson Hayes even had an opportunity to properly set the screen. But there's a high chance that a pick and roll out of that wouldn't have even been very successful, as there were 2 Lakers on the roll side as opposed to there being 2 Mavericks on the ball handler side in the very first clip. That kind of spacing just goes to show that they clearly don't have the chemistry to run a Luka Doncic offense just yet. And on top of that, Jackson Hayes is certainly not the lob threat that Lively and Gafford are, which is why the Mark Williams rescinded trade is completely destroying the Lakers offense. You could make an argument that in the future it's going to pay off for the Los Angeles Lakers because giving up your remaining assets for Mark Williams only for him to be an injury prone center could have completely destroyed the Luka Doncic era. But if it would have worked out, then the Lakers would have had a very legitimate chance to make a deep run into the Western Conference Finals and possibly the NBA Finals if they never saw the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs. Still, it looked like they were going to try this play later in the quarter, but it ended up being a fake screen with Luka handing the ball off to Rui Hachimura at the top of the key with no momentum. The Los Angeles Lakers offense is making no sense as of late, and to be honest, there are just negatives all around in LA. But regardless of all of the offensive woes Luka and the team are facing right now, I don't think there's a bigger negative for the Lakers than Luka's defense over the past 3 games. And there's no one to explain it better than the most overpaid podcaster in the NBA right now.
But just talk a little bit about Luka's defense. Like, do you think he is a big defensive liability?
My problem to that is it's hard to play both ends, and I don't think guys get enough credit. Like, you're going to have to sacrifice. As good as he is offensively, it's a reason why he's half on defense.
Paycheck P is right. It's been a known fact since he got drafted that Luka was a below average defender, but his offensive talent has more than made up for that. However, when he's not putting up 35 and 15 every night, his lack of athleticism and discipline on defense becomes very evident. His mediocre play against Charlotte is the reason that the game was even close in the first place, especially with his 5 turnovers in 5 minutes. And once it got to crunch time, Charlotte was literally switch hunting Luka on defense, and it worked like a charm. I mean, just look at what LaMelo Ball did to this poor man in an isolation. This play is a perfect example of how going at Luka created a good look for the Hornets. Josh Green is going to rotate behind an off-ball screen to the top of the key where the ball handler is, and then roll once Luka gets out of position, forcing him to switch onto the ball handler. Luka then overplays a give and go, giving Nick Smith good positioning down low, where he would find an open saloon for an easy three. Luka being a defensive liability is definitely a major negative to the Lakers, especially since they no longer have an elite rim protector to bail out the perimeter defenders once they lose their man. But to be fair, the Dallas Mavericks don't have that guy right now either. Still, despite how much Charlotte was killing Luka in the half court, which by the way was so much so that JJ Redick had to take Luka Doncic out on defense in the final minute, the game was close, and the Lakers had a chance to tie it with a few seconds left in the game. The talk of the town afterward, though, was the fact that Luka was the one inbounding the ball. He sucked all night. He sucked as a whole in Los Angeles, but he still has enough of a pedigree to cause controversy over a late game decision. LeBron would end up bricking 2 threes, giving the Hornets the win, and the question was, why wasn't Luka the one to take the shot?
At some point, all of us, because of what happened with the trade, are waiting for Luka to be the guy to take the final shot of a game. Last night it wasn't. It was LeBron.
Well, the reality of it is this. No matter how bad Luka Doncic has been as a Laker, and no matter how cold he is on any given night, I, especially as a Lakers fan, want Luka to take that shot every single time. He's made a career off of making clutch shots, including a literal buzzer-beater game-winning 3 in the Western Conference Finals last year. I mean, this is without a doubt one of the most iconic moments of his entire career. He's known as one of the most clutch players in all of basketball. And I know this is going to suck to hear, LeBron fans, but despite his greatness, he hasn't been clutch in the slightest in his tenure with the Lakers. They showed a statistic after the game that said that LeBron James is 1 in 29 on game-tying or go-ahead shots in the final 5 seconds of a game since joining the Lakers. And that is absolutely absurd. In no world would I prefer this iteration of LeBron James taking the final shot over a guy who already has a career highlight tape of game winners at the age of 25. I honestly hope that the Lakers end up trusting him with that shot soon and not relying on a 40-year-old man that's only made 3% of his game winners on the team, because if they don't, Luka might want out. This trade came completely out of nowhere for him. He was sent away from a team that was perfectly built around him to a place he never outright said he wanted to go to, and I don't see any reason why any given team wouldn't blow everything up by 2027 to try and sign him in free agency and build everything around him.
The pressure is on the organization between now and August 2nd to get Luka to sign that extension. That's where the pressure is, because Luka doesn't have his incentive to sign in L. He never said, I want to be a Laker.
Brian Windhorst is right. All the pressure is on Rob Pelinka and the Los Angeles Lakers, because if you can't secure what would then be a 28-year-old megastar in his prime to a long-term deal, then the trade was for absolutely nothing. Sure, you get 2.5 years of Luka Doncic, but what's the point if you don't lock him up for the rest of his career? He's that good. I know this video is about how bad he's been with the Lakers, but I honestly believe that's not going to continue. He's clearly playing hurt still, as evidenced by JJ Redick keeping him out of a back-to-back against the Portland Trailblazers, and he hasn't quite found his fit with the team yet. Once he figures it out and the Luka Doncic of old comes out to play, the Lakers will still be in business. And there's no question that Rob Pelinka has already shown a dedication to build everything around Luka Doncic for the rest of his career. He hit the ground running trying to trade for Mark Williams, but ultimately rescinded the trade because Mark Williams was injured. I know this is going to sound absurd, but at this point, Luka is getting outplayed by Ben Simmons and Max Christie, who by the way we'll have a video on soon, but there's a very obvious reason for that. The current iteration of the Los Angeles Lakers are not made for Luka Doncic to succeed. There's 3 primary ball handlers on this team in the form of LeBron James, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic. There's no valuable front court players offensively or defensively. Luka Doncic is terribly out of shape, and he is not going to be in shape for the entirety of the season, because you can't get in shape when you have a left calf strain. You have to rest your left calf, which means you can't do cardio, which means you can't get into shape. And I don't expect this to get much better. I expect the remainder of the Los Angeles Lakers season to be kind of similar to what the Dallas Mavericks went through when they originally traded for Kyrie Irving. No, I don't think this is going to be a lottery team, but I don't expect a deep run to the NBA Finals. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, I think we can all agree on one thing. Nico Harrison is a moron for trading Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for an injury-prone, aging star in Anthony Davis. He could have clearly gotten 8 first-round picks for him, and that alone makes it a terrible trade, no matter how poorly Luka Doncic does. But I don't think we're going to be able to see the peak of the Luka Doncic Lakers until until the beginning of next year. But let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Aside from that, I don't know if you guys heard, basketball is really not going well in Texas. Victor Wembanyama has been ruled out for the remainder of the season with an injury that's very similar to what Chris Bosh suffered. Now, this is very bittersweet because on one hand, one of the NBA's biggest stars could have their careers altered forever. But on the other hand, if he's okay, there's a chance that the Spurs could pair Victor Wembanyama up with Cooper Flag this offseason. How? Well, we made a completely separate video on that, and I'll leave it in the end screen, and I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.